Thank you for sitting in on us, Congressman Kucinich. Welcome to the JSACast. My name is JSACast.
And I'm Henry Wilson. Thank you for talking with us today. First, we're going to ask you, I think we're going to ask everybody, is if you could just talk about what you think about what defines your candidacy. What sets you apart from all the other candidates?
Well, I'm the only Democrat who voted against the war, who voted 100% of the time against funding the war, who voted against the Patriot Act, who stands for a not-for-profit health care system, who stands for a carbon-free and nuclear-free energy policy, who has programs to create a new WGA, a Works Green Administration, that turns government into an engine of sustainability. The only one who's talking about a new role for America in the world, not as a nation above nations, but a nation among nations. Strength through peace, adherence to international law and diplomacy, participating with the world community to meet security challenges, including the challenge of global climate change. So, you know, and I have a history to back it up. I mean, this is it. And you know, I've been right. These other candidates who are running have made the wrong decisions about Iraq and about other foreign policy issues.
Do you feel you've been at a disadvantage because of funding and the media's role in that?
Well, I think, you know, we need to, every election is a teachable moment. And in this election, the teachable moment relates to the role of the media. Should the media be able to pick winners and losers right away? That's a real serious question. Because if they do, then the corporations that run the media can take care of their own narrow interests and forget about the broad-based interests of the American people. So what I'm suggesting is that we have to go back to really tight public control of the airwaves. That this idea about privatization of the media, there's serious questions about that. And if they're not regulated, or they don't observe the public interest as was described in the Federal Communications Act of 1934, then there's questions as to whether or not they should continue to be broadcast licensees. This is different than print. Print is protected by the First Amendment. Government has no right to prior restraint or to dictate what should be in newspapers. But government does have a right to say about the electronic media because it's licensed, and the airwaves belong to the people.
As you sort of touched on before, a lot of your policies are different from most of your rivals. If you were elected president, what would you do to get your policies through a Congress that might disagree with you on many of your...
Well, the American people have a real desire for a not-for-profit health care system because so many people can't afford the premiums. And if you have insurance, you can't afford the co-pays and deductibles. So I would go to the American people and say, give me a Congress that'll give you health care. So, you know, it's a matter of a president who represents all the people, not just a district, communicating with the people of the country to tell them what his agenda is, or her agenda, and to share it with the American people and let them decide if they want a Congress that'll support that. See, that's what Roosevelt did. That's what I would want to do.
And lastly, I think this is like the most important question for the junior statesman. How do you suggest young people get involved? I know you've had, you got involved at a young age.
Well, I mean, you know, pick a candidate you like. Get involved in a campaign. You can learn more through doing that than you can in any, you know, political science class in college. Practical experience there. And that's what I advocate. And I would say in our own campaign, we're looking for young people who want to learn. I don't care what someone's politics are. If people want to learn, they want to participate, then get involved. And, you know, if people want to join my campaign, the door is open. You go to the web at dennisforpresident.com. We want young people involved because you help bring in the kind of ideas and the energy that changes everything. You look at our campaign right now, we've got hundreds of young people come from all over the country to join us in this effort in the closing hours in the New Hampshire campaign. So pick a candidate you like, go to public meetings, get started at an earlier age. I'd say run for city council in your community. Seriously, start early. If you are interested in politics, start early. But don't think you can run, you know, for the highest office right away. It took me 40 years to get to this point. So, you know, it doesn't mean you have to spend that time.
Having said that, would you just say about the first time you ran for Congress at the age of 25?
Yeah, the first time I ran for Congress, I was 25 years old.
Wow.
And I came within 1% of getting elected against I think it was an 8-term Republican incumbent who ran with Richard Nixon. I ran with George McGovern into the Nixon landslide. McGovern got beat 3-1 in my district. and I lost by barely 1.5%. And so, and I was outspent 20-1. So I was 25 years old, and I was an anti-war activist, and I was kind of a hippie, as those eras describe people, and I almost won a seat in Congress at that age. So you don't have to wait, but you have to know what you're talking about. I'd already spent, by the time I ran for Congress, I'd already spent 5 years in politics. So see what I mean?
Right.
You got to learn. There's no shortcuts in politics. People who get to the top like that, there's always the problem of not knowing enough so you can make the best decisions. There's a price you pay if you get the shortcut, because sooner or later, there's no substitute for experience. Thanks a lot.